I am Helen Harwood Snell. Welcome to Tuesday Tales. I am a trainer in storytelling and a master of language in copywriting and ghostwriting. And I love to host guests on here with me to highlight their business expertise. And then we develop a story from the conversation to show you how easy storytelling is to use in your business to make connections with your clients. I would like to introduce you to Laura Armstrong. And as I said, please comment if you have any questions or aha moments. And if you're watching replay, let me know there too. So Laura, welcome, welcome. Thank you for doing this for me a little bit last minute. I appreciate that. I know life is a lot going on for you right now. So much appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for inviting me. Helen, absolutely. I love coming on and chatting about things that are going to, shift people or make them move forward in their life and in their business. So yeah, let's bring it on, see how we can help people.
Awesome. Well, we're going to dig into how you help people do that a little bit, but I always like to start these conversations by telling us who you are outside of your business. Tell me a little bit about Laura. What makes her tick?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I am a three-time world champion martial artist. I've been training and teaching in martial arts for over 30 years. I'm also a holistic practitioner of 20 plus years. And it's been quite the journey, as a woman, as probably an overweight woman on top of that, and also a woman who's had a lot of stigma attached to her. So right from the get-go when I was younger, I was always fighting against the stereotypes, right? And so for me, it just became a part of my life to, push against the machine that I didn't fit in, and it was okay not to fit in, right? And I could actually create way more change not fitting in than I could going with the fish, right? Or going with the school of fish, right? So though it may have created some painful lessons for me, those lessons served me not only as I grew older, but later in life when I started doing more teaching and more working people with creating more growth in their life. So for me, I have trained and I have taught for many years. I've created world champions in my martial arts school, and so have my students, right? So I know what it means to create a legacy, right? And the thing that you have to remember when you are in your business is, first of all, what do you want to leave in the world, right? And how do you want to do it, right? And there's more ways to define that and all that kind of stuff in business and all that. But for me, doing that and having fun while doing it is super key. And on top of that, making a ton of money. I love money, right? And I take a lot of flack for that because I love money so much, right? Like, so they're like, oh, you're greedy or this or that. And I've always loved money, right? Because it's allowed me to live the lifestyle that I want. It's allowed me to help other people on levels that I probably couldn't, right?
I,
So yeah.
having a very different perspective about money, that's one of the things that you really encouraged me to embrace is you can't help people if you don't have money. And so I love that. I love that you own it. And I love that you actually know how to get other people to embrace that as well. Outside of martial arts, what do you do for fun when you're not working in your business?
Oh my gosh, for fun. So many things. So I do a ton of traveling, and we do axe throwing, right? And of course, I'm in the competitive league, big shocker there, right? But I do the casual league with my husband, right? So, but then I get my competitive, fix going by myself, right? Which is great. And I love that because I'm in last place, which I love because it's a whole new learning curve for me. And I believe that you have to enter into anything with a beginner's mind or an empty cup to actually learn and move forward. So I've been coached by a couple of the senior people there who really helped me get better really fast, right? So I do that for fun. What else do I like to do? I like to do a lot of reading. I like physical activity. I'm up pretty much up for anything. I like new adventures. I like shopping, not necessarily like shopping to buy stuff, but I like to spend time looking at things and enjoying people's company. So I'm very social that way too. I love going for dinner, or just getting together with people. So that's a big part of what I do too. But traveling, we really love. Like I love doing that. I love seeing the world. I love experiencing things. So for me, I'd rather very much have an experience than a gift. For the gift, give me the experience of something.
So, out of that, tell me kind of three things that are most important to you in your life? Values.
Values, sure. So I love money. That's in the top three for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I take a lot of judgment for it, which I love because the more people judge me, the more money I make, which is okay because I don't, in a great way. Like I can't worry about what other people think. It's just their opinion. I can only help other people access their needs and their financial needs and help them to create more money in their life so they can help more people. So I like making money. I like having fun. That's really key for me. It's got to be enjoyable, whatever I do, and it has to help people. That's the third thing, right? And so if I have those three things together, like it's the ultimate thing that I'm doing, right? And I have to say, I'm going to add a fourth one in there. Seeing people's transformation when they have growth is probably up there, probably ahead of money. I got to be honest, right? So having them, reach the pinnacle of their success, that for me is probably more gratifying than anything else. And I say that because I remember when I was coaching the Canadian team for many years, and my students would be competing, and I do the sparring with them. Sometimes I'm like, God, they're better than me. Crap, this is great, right? Your goal as a teacher or instructor or coach or whatever you're doing is to have your students surpass you, right? You have to be emotionally intelligent to understand that that's an important part of not just their growth, but your growth. And you're going to become a bigger, better person if you can see that, right? You're there to create more in the world, whatever that looks like, right? So for me, when I started seeing my students surpass me, and I've gotten older now, so I don't spar as much or, whatever, but they're better than I am. They took everything that I taught them and they made it better and they added their own spice, right? And that's really what it's about.
I think a lot of people deal with that resistance of letting someone go, letting someone surpass you. I know you and I have even talked before in coaching that if someone gets to a point that they don't need you anymore, like you
Yeah.
want to send them on, right? You know that there's a place in their journey that you fulfill. And then if they're ready to go, they're ready to go. So on that note, tell me what you do in your business. Tell us about Breakthroughs by Laura.
Yeah, so it's comprised of a few things. I have another business associated with it called Leadership with Laura, where I teach mostly leadership and communication. So I am a communication expert, not just in sales and corporate, but also in life and relationships, right? So I believe that communication is at the key of who we are. So communication broken down, when you learn it properly, it's understanding of self first, understanding of others, and then it's understanding how you're perceived in the world, right? And so once you understand that and you actually can have that self knowledge about yourself, know what is great about you, what you're like in stress, what your values are, what they're not, what are strong, what isn't, then you can start to realize and have space for other people to be who they are without judgment and without trying to control the situation, right? Because I feel like that's where a lot of stuff goes off the rails. Well, things aren't showing up the way I thought, or this person disappointed me because I had expectations. Expectations are premeditated disappointments, right? That's what they are. So, like, don't set yourself up for failure.
So tell me about the transformation piece, the breakthroughs.
Yes, right. Thank you for keeping me focused on track. So
Okay.
what I decided is the leadership with Laura, I love that. I created courses around that, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't feeding my soul. So then I'm like, I was talking with a friend of mine who's like a really high level coach, like we're both peers. And she's like, what do you love to do? And so we made this list. She goes, why aren't you incorporating the holistic piece of what you do? I'm like, you know what? You're right. So that's why we created Breakthroughs by Laura. So Breakthroughs by Laura is, every single person that I work with, there's something getting in their way, right? And so how do we get rid of that, right? So that they can book those 20K a month clients, they can book those 100K events, right? Like, so, and I want to work with people who want to think bigger, create bigger, want more. And it doesn't have to be huge amounts of money. It could just be more in their life in general, right? So all of us have stuff and we have our baggage. It's how we use our baggage and how we don't allow it to get in the way or drag us down, but make sure that it's on some super smooth wheels as it comes along with us, right? And we can use what's in our bags to help other people. So use it as fuel to help others create more. So it's always a pay it forward kind of thing going on. So that's a little bit about Breakthroughs by Laura. I only work with people who want to move. I don't want to have someone sign up and not do the work. I don't want to waste their money. I don't want to waste my time. And I'm very direct about this. A lot of people aren't. You know, in my holistic business, I've divorced my clients before. I'm like, I think you're good. Here's your money back. And I'm going to send you to someone who can help you better than I can. So I'm just very clear about who I want to work with and why. And I want them to be clear about that too. So the relationship is mutually effective and they're going to get what they need.
Those breakthroughs, I love how you talked about the baggage being the thing that you can carry forward to actually help other people. And so those breakthroughs are both in business and personal life, right? That you deal with. It's a really holistic approach to growth.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and it's a lot of the stuff on the personal level that we develop as children, habits, good, bad, whatever, that shape who we are in our business. And it also puts the restrictions on things like self-sabotage, not being good enough, feeling guilty, making money, wanting too much, whatever it is for each person. But what we don't highlight is all the good things that could be too. Having a thriving business, being able to manifest and actualize what you want, knowing that it's going to show up because you're doing the work, right? And not letting people hold you back or pull you back or tell you, not listening to that, right? Listening to those voices in your head. And it's just really about developing new habits, getting rid of the blocks that are in your way and actually stepping forward into something new. And that can be frightening for a lot of people. And just a little bit scary because it is new, right? If they're used to the old thing, well, what's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again with the same result. Don't you want a different result, right? So do something different.
So again, that whole idea of that holistic approach and the fact that you have come through this second career, let's call it, being a martial arts instructor and a world champion for a large part of your life. What drew you into the coaching sphere out of martial arts? What was the thing that actually kind of bridged you over into leadership and communication? How did that transition happen for you?
It's really interesting that you asked that question because it was just kind of really like organic. And it wasn't like, I'm going to do this now, right? Like, so it just kind of happened. And what I noticed is the people that I was working with they were reaching their goals and they were reaching those markers that they wanted, right? And I thought, well, can't we do the same thing in business? It's the same principles, right? And I wanted to create another legacy in business where what I would do would ripple out into the world, even if I'm here or not, right? And so that's where our vision of where what we want in the world is really key. Like if you're not clear about what you want, you're just going to kind of woulda, coulda, shoulda, maybe someday I'll try this and see what happens. And it's hard to get clear because first of all, there's so much noise in our everyday. We don't even register it a lot of time because it's become our normal, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So getting laser focused on what your genius is your key. Like a lot of us, when people tell me what they do, I'm like, yeah, that's okay. But what's your wow? What have you done in life that shakes people's foundations? Because I know there's something, but I'm not either not willing to own it, not willing to look for it, or afraid that it's going to sound too much like it's your ego. And that holds people back, right? And so how can we get people to step into their power and own their wow?
Mm-hmm.
No matter what their values are, they still need business, they still need referrals, right? So how do we help them with that, right? And
Right.
that's one of the key points I would say.
Yeah, fantastic. And I know that's not as easy for some as it is for others. I've heard this comparison before, and for those of you who are listening, if you've heard me say this before, forgive me. But especially with women, a woman would not apply for a job if she was like 95% qualified, and a man would typically apply for a job if he was only like 60% qualified. So there's a very different feeling about ego and thinking what is wow about me, being proud of yourself, having that confidence without thinking that it's ego or pride or whatever. So that's really key. I love that. So kind of answered this question already in that I usually like to ask people, what kind of previous experience have you had that you bring into your business? And I know that you certainly have your martial arts experience that you bring into your business because, as you said, you're training for leadership and your training for goal setting and everything exactly the same as you did in that, are there any other parts of your life, like maybe let's look at the holistic side of what you do in your business? Is there something there that you can share with us that you bring into your coaching that is makes you unique?
Yeah, for sure. Like, first of all, I want to say, like, if you're looking to build your business, you are a leader. Like, you can dance around it all day long, but the fact of the matter is you're a leader. So just own up and own it, right? And how you own that leadership is what we develop together, right? I've done a lot of really crappy leadership things, and I thought, oh, that just didn't work. That I sucked. That was horrible, right? Like, I had so many lessons about what leadership was for me, and I read books, I did seminars, I did the whole deal. But leadership really comes from within and introspection, right? So if you've got to have those conversations about that, right, with yourself, right? So the holistic piece, I was already really comfortable with that because I would work, I would use my intuition, I would use my knowing and my awareness, right? And so I just started to bring that into my business, and I was noticing that working with the right clients who were willing to listen to the coaching that I was giving, it was actually allowing them to tap into their awareness better, right? And they could tap, that feeling, like that little voice in your head. If you don't listen to it, you're like, I should have listened, right? Like, it's so, how do we make that real so that it's not some woo-woo thing and people think we're cray-cray, right? Like, it's just, it's this ability for you to tap into that piece of yourself we don't talk about every day. It's more the norm in society now, but being a holistic practitioner brought an extra layer of knowing and value to my clients so that they would have the edge. So I could use all the strategies and techniques and tips and training that I had had for 20 years and apply it to that, because sometimes it's not enough to have strategies and communication and leadership training and do this course and these funnels and all that. You need the techniques to get you past what's holding you back. And nobody teaches that.
I can certainly attest to that myself as someone who has, you know, taken all of the training, looked at all the funnels,
Yeah.
kind of gone through all of that stuff. And then there was still something in my business that was like, I'm not good enough to do this, or, who am I to say I'm an expert storyteller or whatever that may be. And it's been that holistic piece that's allowed me to understand who I am and show up, as myself in my business.
Yeah.
And that, again, that intuition that you say you have, I think a lot of times as a business coach, let's say, there might be a blueprint that they follow. First we're going to work on this and this and this and this, and we're going to get to this point. But intuitively, as a coach, if you're able to say, oh, I feel like we should veer off here because this looks like something that you need help with before we start that's a whole different journey. And that's much more organic, right? That's a real natural journey for someone's growth.
Yeah, for sure. And you need to speak to it in their values, because if you don't, it will go off the rails.
Yes.
And that's
yes.
where the communication kicks in. So I could never speak to someone the way I speak to you if they had a different set of values.
Absolutely.
Right. And so then that's where the communication training comes in. Right. And so
Yeah.
you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense to me. Right. But for me, that's not the way I think about it. But again, it's not about me. It's about other people. Right.
Yes.
And so you need to be emotionally intelligent enough that nothing is about you. It's about what you're offering and what people will take from what you're offering. And they will not take everything. Trust me. Your job is to crack the door open and see if they like what the light looks like on the other side. Just that little bit. And if they do, we can go for more. If they don't, we close that door, we go down the hall, and we open another door.
I like that idea. Everybody's idea of success is different, and everybody's journey to get there is different. And that's I've actually never heard it said that way before, about opening the door, seeing what's inside, and if it's not for you, to move on. That's awesome. So I'm totally a fan, as you know, of your work with what you do. And what I want to do now, I've kind of shown you to the world all of the great nuggets. Like, I don't know if anybody was taking notes from this, but there's so many great things that you shared. I took down a bunch of notes as you were talking, because what I like to do to kind of end off these interviews now is show a little bit of how storytelling can work in business. So I would love for you to share with me a recent experience, maybe a story from your axe throwing, or a recent trip you took, or something, some kind of a story that you can share with me. And then I'm going to take all of this information that you've given me about your business and your past and your values and all those things, and I'm going to come up with a story that is something that you could use when you're having a conversation with somebody, maybe when you're speaking from stage, or maybe you want to throw it in a social media post just to show the audience how easy it is to build story and how you can make a connection with your audience through that. So do you have something to share with me about
Sure,
a recent
yeah. I've been
experience?
lately teaching this self-defense certification course for students. And so there are 5 of these students, and it was interesting because one of the people in the course, a young gentleman, he came in, he wanted to take the course because he really loved the idea of self-defense and kind of expanding what he knows. And the second day he comes in and he says, because I knew that it was triggering him a little bit, the things that were coming up. And I said, how are you doing? Right? Like we do a check, and he goes, I thought I was going to come in here and just learn stuff and then have my certification and that's it. And he goes, this is a whole different ball of wax. He goes, stuff came up for me. He goes, I was able to look at it. I didn't shy away from it. He goes, and I was able to process it and have the knowing about it, but not judge myself and then let it go. And I'm like, and that's why you're here. I said, and that's what this is about, right? You will never be the same after this course. You will be a different person, and you will be a better person because you will be big enough to help other people.
That's fantastic. And that's such a great story. Again, to highlight another business that you're involved with is self-defense. And that's something that people can reach out to you
Sure.
if they're interested in training with that too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that idea that, if you were, for example, having a sales conversation with somebody, or let's say you're speaking from the stage, and you could tell them about, this is something that I've been doing, this self-defense work, where I had this instance with this gentleman, expected one thing, came out of it with another thing. And I want to share with you that that's often what happens when you're going through these breakthroughs, when you're going through training with your business. You often think, when you come into coaching, I need to learn time management. I need to learn, new marketing. And often what ends up happening is the journey is a little bit different to get there. And so I think that's just, there's so many things in your life that you could use for examples in your business, and I'm sure that you do. But that's just a simple way to just show the audience you can take a story like that and tie it into a value in your business around, Laura's intuitive guidance to get you through her holistic personal and business growth programs. So I think she just had to jump off screen to go and deal with her dogs. That's
Sorry.
okay. That's okay. I did a podcast yesterday, and the person who was interviewing me had her dog in the conversation. So you never know how it's going to go. So I really want to thank you for being my guest today. If anybody wants to get in touch with Laura, you can find her on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. If you're tuning in on any of those channels, Laura Armstrong is the name. Leadership with Laura is your one business, correct? Leadership with Laura and Breakthroughs by Laura. So you may find her under those names as well. Again, I want to thank you and let you know that creating stories really creates these meaningful connections with your audience, whether it is on social media, whether it is from stage. If it's a signature talk you're giving, there's an old saying that says, facts tell, stories sell. And that is so important. But the piece that I find missing in that statement is that it's the relationship that you build through that story. It's that trust. It's that connection that we make. And so this is just a way that I like to show people how easy it is to take a life moment, build that into a business story. And I've really enjoyed you being on with me tonight, Laura. And thanks for all of you joining us. I will see you all again soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, Helen. I just want to say, working with Helen on my stuff, I don't know what it is about Helen, but she has a point of view that she can see things you can't. And so even that short story that you just told, I'm like, oh, that's really good. It's just because I'm not thinking that way, right? And sometimes you need outside experts like Helen to get that point of view. And like, she's already written a book for me, which is a bestseller, right? Like, so, but her way of approaching, your way of approaching things is unique. And I don't quite think I've ever come in contact with someone like that. And the scope of what you offer is extensive, and it's very fulsome. So people would be remiss in not contacting you to find out just a little bit more. So book a call with Helen. I'm not here to promote Helen or anything, but I'm here to promote Helen. Okay. So thank you for having me on. It's been very fun, right? That's one of my three things, right?
Yes, it
It's
is.
been very fun to hang out with everybody. And Helen, it's just so great to talk to you. And thank you so much for having me.